In 1996, Wes Craven's Scream redefined horror cinema with its self-aware wit and terrifying masked killer. But behind the celluloid screams lay a far more chilling reality, a series of murders that terrorized the college town of Gainesville, Florida in 1990. 5 innocent students butchered in their own homes, their bodies left in positions so grotesque that even seasoned detectives struggled to comprehend the horror. The killer's name was Danny Rawling, and his crimes not only haunted Gainesville, but also bled into pop culture. Tonight I'll take you deep inside the dark tale where the fiction meets the unrelenting hand of true evil. Danny Harold Rawling's journey into the darkness began long before Gainesville. Born in 1954 in Shreveport, Louisiana, Danny grew up in a house that was anything but a home. His father, James Rawling, was a police officer, respected in uniform but feared behind closed doors. James' idea of discipline was a closed fist and a leather belt. Claudia, Danny's mother, lived in perpetual fear, watching helplessly as her husband beat their children over the smallest infractions. One day, when Danny was barely a toddler, his father beat him simply for crawling incorrectly. Danny watched his father kill the family dog in a fit of rage. A moment seared into his mind like a brand. The boy who should have been nurtured was instead taught that love was pain, and the authority came with violence. By the time Danny reached adulthood, the darkness within him had begun to take shape. He drifted aimlessly through the South, unable to hold a job or form lasting relationships. Arrested repeatedly for petty thefts and burglaries, he was a man adrift, haunted by the voices in his head and violent fantasies that only grew with each passing year. In May of 1990, after an argument with his father turned violent, Danny shot James Rawling in the stomach and head. Though incredibly James survived, Danny fled Shreveport, taking with him the demons he had grown inside his broken mind. He headed east, away from the bloodshed he left behind, towards a new hunting ground that he would soon drench in terror. By mid-August 1990, Danny Rawling had made Gainesville his lair. He'd lived like a ghost at a campsite deep in the woods, hidden from the students who walked those sunlit streets by day. There, in the hush of the night, he rehearsed his rituals, cleaning his Marine Corps knife, testing the sharpness of its blade, rolling strips of duct tape between his fingers like a priest, preparing for a dark ceremony. He watched the apartment complexes near the university, eyes cold and calculating, memorizing the routines of his prey. He noted the doors left unlocked, the laughters of roommates, the vulnerability that came with youth and trust. Danny Rawling was not a man anymore. He was a predator, and he was ready to hunt. On the night of August 24, 1990, Danny Rawling made his move. He had chosen Sonja Larson and Christina Powell, both bright-eyed freshmen at the University of Florida, eager for the new beginnings. Rawling watched their apartment from the darkness, studying their every move. He found the sliding glass door unlocked, a silent invitation for the devil himself. He slipped inside like a phantom, his knife already gleaming in the moonlight. First, he crept into Sonja's room, where she lay sleeping. She never stood a chance. He taped her mouth shut to muffle her screams, then plunged the knife into her chest, again and again, each thrust deliberate, almost ritualistic. Her body shuddered, her eyes frozen in a final horrified stare. But Rawling wasn't finished. He moved on to Christina's room. She awoke to the sound of horror, Danny's silhouette framed by the hallway light. She tried to scream, but Rawling overpowered her, binding her wrists and raping her, before ending her life with the same savage blade. Before leaving, he posed their bodies in an obscene, humiliating positions, his twisted signature, a final message to the world that he had come, and that he was far from done. The very next night, Danny Rawling set his sights on Christa Hoyt, a bright 18-year-old balancing college with her job as a sheriff's clerk. He broke into her apartment while she was at work, waiting for her return like a spider in its web. When she came home, she found herself face to face with pure evil. Rawling attacked her from behind, binding her with duct tape. He raped her, stabbed her, then took his time posing her body in a macabre display. But his cruelty reached a new level. He decapitated Christa and placed her head on a shelf facing her lifeless corpse. For the investigators who found her, it was a sight so horrific that some of them would never sleep soundly again. On August 27th, Rowling struck one last time. His targets, Manny Taboada and Tracy Pauls, best friends and roommates. Manny was a big man, athletic and strong, but even his strength couldn't stop Rowling's blade. He fought hard, but the killer's knife found its mark again and again, the small apartment echoing with the sounds of a life ending. Tracy, awakened by the noise, found herself face to face with the monster who had killed her friend. She tried to barricade herself in her room, but Rowling broke through, binding her, raping her, and ending her life with cold efficiency. As before, he posed their bodies, leaving his calling card of horror in the darkness. By now, Gainesville had descended into chaos. Students slept in groups, barricading doors with whatever they could find. Hardware stores ran out of deadbolts and pepper spray. Parents pulled their children from dorms, refusing to risk another night in a town that had become a hunting ground. Police patrolled 24/7, chasing shadows, checking every suspicious face, but Danny Rowling had become a ghost, a phantom that had left no fingerprints, only screams in the night. It was a botched robbery in Ocala, a mistake born in Rowling's need for money, that finally brought him down. Police arrested him for the crime, but it wasn't until weeks later that investigators connected him to the Gainesville murders. At his campsite, hidden in the woods, they found a twisted treasure trove, duct tape matching the murders, tools that left marks identical to those at the crime scenes, and audio tapes where Rowling, calm and cold, described his crimes in chilling detail. DNA evidence sealed his fate, linking him to the horrific murders beyond any doubt. In 1994, Danny Rowling stood before the court. He pled guilty to all 5 murders, his voice eerily calm as he recounted his acts. The courtroom listened in horror as prosecutors laid every single detail: the bindings, the rapes, the posing of bodies, the decapitation. His defense tried to claim multiple personalities, arguing that Rowling was a fractured mind, tormented by the childhood trauma. But the jury saw something simpler, something darker, a man who had chosen to become a monster. The judge called him pure evil and sentenced him to death. On October 25, 2006, at Florida State Prison, Danny Rowling was executed by lethal injection. He sang a hymn as the drugs entered his veins, a final, mocking farewell to the lives he had destroyed. Gainesville would never be the same, for the families, for the community. The scars left by Danny Rowling's blade would never fully heal. The Scream franchise may have turned his story into a fictional mask, but for those who lived through those 4 days of terror, the horror was all too real. And even now, in the quietest hours of the night, some still wonder if the shadows outside their windows might hold the eyes of another Rowling, waiting for the door to be left unlocked. Danny Rowling planned his murders with methodical precision, feeding his demons with every drop of blood. His legacy is a chilling reminder that sometimes the most terrifying stories are not written by screenwriters, but the monsters who walk among us. Thank you for watching. Stay curious, stay cautious. Until next time on Reaper Files.